Howdy gamers, we are back again today with the Razer Blade 15 2020 Base Edition. Still a mouthful to say, but I've spent more time with this and I've seen some questions come up in the comments and some other places, so I'm going to cover the most frequent ones I've seen as well as some other ones that I think might be pertinent to the stuff that I'm interested in. Now, the thing that I've seen come up the most by far is regarding noise, especially fan noise at idle. I'll just cut straight through it. Yes, you're going to be able to hear this laptop when there's nothing going on. For example, right now I have one application open, and if I keep my ear out, I can hear the fan noise. Unless you are coming from something that had no fan whatsoever or something that was just deadly quiet, this is nothing to be concerned about. The tone is not very annoying. It's quiet enough that you're not going to really notice it unless you have no other outside noises happening. Now, there are a few things that could potentially affect this. If you have something open in the background that is actually doing something, putting a load on that CPU, yes, the fans are going to ramp up to kind of keep everything cool. And the other thing that you can do that will affect this really only in a negative way is in the settings. And of course, I'm talking about my least favorite piece of software, and that's Razer's Temps. Although I will give them a slight pass because lately it hasn't been crashing nearly as much. So maybe they are working on it, but we'll go ahead and open up Razer's Temps, go into the System tab and then Performance. And when you're in the plugged in section on the battery, you're not gonna have any other options, but if you're in the plugged in section, there are a couple different modes that you can set. So if you want to go into gaming or creator, and that's just going to ramp up the GPU or CPU clocks respectively, as far as I can tell, those are going to result in more noise output because it's ramping up the thermals. So you're going to have to compensate with the fans. But you might think, hey, if I just keep it on balance, or even if you did go into one of the other settings, I can just change it from auto fan speed to manual and now just set the fan speed to be lower. But if you do that, I'll go into manual right now. On balance, the lowest it's going to go is 4,300 RPM. And that is substantially louder than what auto is going to set it to if you're truly idling. So now you might actually start hearing it pick up on the microphone. And yes, that's actually to a level that you're definitely going to notice no matter what. So I'll just set that back to auto. Unless you have a specific purpose for doing that, unless you're cranking it up more, I really wouldn't change it from the auto settings. You can go into gaming and creator and also set the manual curve or the manual fan setting, but on either of those modes, the minimum goes from 4,300 to 4,900, so it's only going to get louder. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, if you're doing something, it's going to make some noise. If you're not doing something, it's going to make some noise, but it's barely going to be audible, not really annoying. So that's it for that. The second thing that I've noticed, and I haven't seen a whole lot of comments about it, but now that I've had more multiple hour sessions of gaming on here, which again, this is my secondary gaming device. My main one is my gaming PC, my gaming desktop over there. But yes, I've still had some more time to play with this. And what I've noticed, especially when you're playing relatively heavier games like Warzone, for example, this thing will get toasty. It never gets to the point where it's uncomfortable, but you're going to very much notice that this thing is kind of hot. It's not going to burn you or anything, but it's going to be very, very obvious that you've been running this thing for a while. So I think that's normal for this design. If you go with the advanced model that has some better, more advanced cooling, so it's probably not going to get to that level on the advanced, but that's just something that you're going to have to kind of come to terms with. One of the sacrifices that you're making with going with the base is that this thing is going to get a bit toasty. Again, I don't think it's going to be anything that you need to be concerned about in terms of safety. And the other thing to note, and I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the power supply is going to get very, very hot. That's going to get hotter than this. So that I would be a little bit careful handling if fresh off a gaming session. I don't think, again, it's going to be a safety concern, but it's just something that you're going to want to take into account. One of the things that is a little bit more pertinent to me now is testing VR. That's one of the things that I wanted to do in the original video, but I just didn't have time to. But I got around to testing originally with my Rift S, and this works just fine. All you gotta make sure to do is pick up a DisplayPort to USB-C adapter, and that's what this is. I'll link the one that I used in the description below, but this works just fine, and it will run the games pretty much as you expect it, and that's really nice. I imagine it would work with the original Rift CV1. It would be a little bit more tricky just because you have the additional USB ports needed for the sensors, but this computer can definitely run it. Now, in my most recent video, I picked up this Quest 2, and this also works just fine with it. Of course, you're gonna need a cable to go from this to the laptop. You can buy a first party one for about 80 bucks, but if you don't have that kind of money to spend, you can just use something janky like I am. This is a USB-C, a USB-A, and a couple of USB 2.0 extension cables, and that works surprisingly well. I still haven't had any issues using this. I imagine using the first party one would be a little bit more elegant, a little bit more clean, but in a pinch, this works just fine, and it'll get you going in VR. So if you want to play VR, you definitely can. And that about wraps up my thoughts for this, the Razer Blade 15 2020 Base Edition. This is a pretty good sweet spot for what you're paying for, and there have been some crazy deals in the past couple of months, and I'm sure they're going to happen again in the next month or two, so keep an eye out for that. I paid full price for this. This is something that I paid for out of pocket. This is my own personal device, so if anything comes up, I will keep you guys posted. I'll either make a pinned comment if it's something small or make a follow-up video. So if you have any other questions, leave them down below and I'll try to cover it then. If any of this stuff was helpful, subscribe to the channel. But that's about it for me, guys. Thanks for watching. See ya.